Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty crazy news to go and cover on over here when it does come to the Xbox and PlayStation over here. Now, we've kind of been seeing a really big trend when it comes to PlayStation that apparently the FTC is actually arguing against for Xbox somehow. Now, you guys can probably go listen to the video itself. You guys will probably be like, oh, that kind of makes sense after I go and show some examples and talk about it, but it's kind of crazy to go and see this, that we're seeing so much information and news coming out from the FTC about them arguing different things that Xbox should or should not be doing in terms of the acquisitions, in terms of also what PlayStation's doing, the drama in between. We have a lot of stuff to go talk about, so we're going to go talk about it. As well, if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We're hanging up on Twitch if you guys are bored, so swing by. There'll be a link down below. Same with the Twitter if you guys want to follow and hang out there. And of course, leave me your thoughts and comments down below as we dive into the video itself. So, very first and foremost, we actually have some pretty crazy things in regards to the FTC. We're going to have a lot of videos on this throughout these next few days because they're actually very, very entertaining topic points to discuss and talk about. But with this one, the FTC has now been actually making a really big argument in court. There is a lot of things that happen as of today as well, but basically the FTC is arguing that Xbox exclusive content would apparently be bad, and ignoring the fact that, funny enough, that PlayStation has had exclusive content literally for many, many years on the platform itself. And they're basically trying to go and kind of almost showcase that they don't really necessarily know what's going on in the gaming world. So they're going to talk about this one because it's funny. I'm not like trying to go and snitch on PlayStation. People have already brought this one up itself. Don't blame me. But it's also crazy to see on how this is literally more of a PlayStation thing rather than an Xbox thing, at least as of right now. So basically, to kind of give some of the highlights over here for the article. During the June 22nd public hearing for the case of the Federal Trade Commission and the FTC versus Microsoft, the FTC voiced concerns about in-game items being made exclusive to Xbox if Microsoft successfully acquired Activision Blizzard King. The FTC also pointed out that Microsoft could launch games earlier on Xbox with time exclusivity, and Microsoft's console gaming rival, Sony, has been signing deals for PlayStation exclusivity like this for years, with games like Call of Duty, Hogwarts Legacy, Destiny, Control, and more, and Sony and PlayStation obviously lead the console gaming market, while Microsoft and Xbox are in third place behind Sony and Nintendo. So let's go talk about a few different things over here just off that top thing. So there's a big legal argument right now in discussion of basically we should not be allowing these big game companies to have huge exclusive rights like this. Now, what we mean by that is that say for Call of Duty, which I just want to say not trying to snitch or be anything bad against PlayStation, but this is all what PlayStation does. PlayStation basically over here is someone who would have a week early for say Call of Duty betas, or they'd also maybe have specific characters or skins or guns or whatever it might be for these specific games that will actually release or are exclusive on the PlayStation console. This has already been in regards for a while in contracts. A good example when it came to Destiny. There's also games where they would do specific maps. There was literally maps that were only made for PlayStation, or as well specific things once again like beta or custom weaponry or whatever it might be that might show up a little bit earlier on PlayStation. Good example too, as well as maybe for Hogwarts Legacy, that also had a slightly different kind of additional things that happened with PlayStation, also had extra marketing on their big PlayStation events and everything else in between. Now, this is kind of apparently supposed to be a big deal where the FTC does not want Microsoft, of all things, to be doing this. Because it's kind of crazy and some people are calling this out because PlayStation's actually been pretty prevalent from the examples I just mentioned before, but as well as also locking in their own game IPs into specific games to incentivize folks to play games on those specific things. So once again, I don't necessarily have this as a bad thing or a good thing regardless. I just think it's a very intriguing thing. Or when it comes to this, as a good example is that Aloy, from Horizon Forbidden West. Aloy is actually a playable character in Genshin Impact, because this is a PlayStation character that has a pretty good tie-in with PlayStation, aka Genshin Impact and PlayStation, and as well they were actually introduced as a collaborative character and crossover character between Guerrilla Games and Ohioverse, so basically in Genshin Impact. And that's kind of what Microsoft was apparently getting called out for / wants to make sure it doesn't happen from the FTC. Another good example is Ratchet & Clank, as I'm sure you guys know is a PlayStation character, was actually blasting into Fall Guys for a limited time events and unique rewards. So once again, it's kind of like these weird gaming crossovers for things like, say, on PlayStation itself that are now available only because of the PlayStation IP. a little on the fact that sometimes we'd have games that show up a little bit earlier or anything else in between. And that's kind of like funny enough why Xbox is like, whoa, 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 because it's been ongoing a while for PlayStation. So during the public hearing on Thursday, June 22nd, for the case of the Federal Trade Commissioner, the FTC, versus Microsoft over the latter's proposed $69 billion actual acquisition, the FTC voices concerns that Microsoft might make certain in-game items exclusive to players on Xbox consoles. This is also about what's called partial foreclosure. If there's a tool or a thing you can buy, maybe you can only buy it if the game is on Xbox, and you can't buy the same thing if you're playing on Sony or PlayStation. That's partial foreclosure, said a lawyer representing the FTC. Or maybe gamers want to play a game right away, so it's available first on Xbox, or maybe it only comes to PlayStation or rival cloud service a year later. I don't want to say too much, but this is quite literally, if you guys know, say for PlayStation, when it comes to timed exclusives. A good example is there's like Deathloop. That's a perfect example. They literally own that game. They make it Microsoft, Bethesda. They own the game. They still had a timed exclusive. Well, there's other various games too as well for PlayStation 2, say Steam, where it also makes them their own timed exclusives. There's a lot of good examples that is funny because it's all been ongoing over here for PlayStation for quite some time. Once again, I'm not really trying to fault PlayStation. I think it's hilarious, but I also kind of feel like sometimes these big legal arguments are kind of like somewhat misplaced. This is also in support of Xbox, funny enough, mainly because it's just like PlayStation's been doing this for a while, and once again, they have even things for, say, Call of Duty, where they have specific contracts where they get the play test early. Like they do the betas and open net betas a lot earlier for like the play tests and stuff, for people to go do that, and for the pre-orders and everything else, which definitely does benefit PlayStation. Which is funny because Microsoft wants to buy it. So it's kind of like, what are you supposed to do? Like, if you want to spend $70 billion, yeah, I think you almost do have the right to go play the game maybe early. Like, I would say so. But apparently the FCC does not want that. So essentially what the FTC is asserting here is, in addition to potentially making some Activision games exclusive to Xbox, Microsoft may also opt to make pieces of content within multi-platform games unavailable on PlayStation and other platforms, which I think that's also okay too, because look at like Nintendo. Nintendo has things like Zelda and Mario games that are only available on Nintendo. I don't think that's a bad thing, especially if you're spending $70 billion. Maybe it's like because of the cost of it being so much money, aka Call of Duty being such an important game, or Overwatches or World of Warcraft or whatever it might be, that maybe adds a lot more extra merit to the FTC. But right now you almost have to have like an excuse to be like, yeah, well, you want to have something. You want to have a Halo, you want to have Gears of War, you want to have Fable, sure, on Xbox, but you need something. So it's almost kind of weird to see that they're kind of ignoring what PlayStation's been doing, because they are technically the big market leader. So essentially the FTC is asserting here that in addition to potentially making some Activision games exclusive to Xbox, Microsoft may also opt to make pieces of content within multi-platform games unavailable on PlayStation and other platforms. On its own, it's a reasonable request, point for the antitrust regulator to make, but when you consider the actions of PlayStation publisher Sony in recent years, the ridiculousness of the argument becomes clear. It's well known that Sony often signs exclusivity deals, which I've just mentioned before in this video, to limit the types of content that players can offer on other systems. In 2020, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, a new fast-paced variant of the franchise, they basically had a brand new Onslaught was exclusive to just PlayStation for an entire year. Or in Call of Duty Vanguard, or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, they have these like various things for like operator skins and weapons and exclusive drops and experience bonuses and battle pass tiers and everything else, which in theory is like a good benefit. Like if you really care, or maybe a content creator or competitive or whatever, you might care about that. Or you want to have the full experience, you might care about that. So another major title with PlayStation exclusive content is the Harry Potter themed RPG Hogwarts Legacy. The quest Mind Your Own Business is only available for people on the PlayStation platforms until February 10th, 2024. And I'm sure you guys already know the game has been mostly out of the meta, so people don't really care or are talking about it or on TikTok about it right now, because, well, the game's been out for a while, and people who really want to play it mostly have, barring a few extra side folks. They also had like cool pre-order bonuses and everything else too. They also had the original like Destiny and Destiny 2 maps too as well, with Bungie skins and special cosmetics, and all this type of stuff never actually even happened on Xbox and PC. So it's all this crazy stuff tied on in, where everyone's like, what's going on? It's kind of funny because, once again, this is kind of Xbox themselves kind of almost taking the brunt of stuff that PlayStation's been doing. Now, I don't mind being hypercritical of them both, but I do really want to say that right now Xbox, for this, is kind of getting shoved into a corner for something they never did. Now, they also had other issues too as well for them, like getting away with the exclusivity rights like we talked about with the previous Bethesda video. If you missed that, go check that on out, where they're talking about the fact of like, hey, like they were supposed to release Starfield. Now, that I can kind of see because they specifically went back on, well, all the original plans, which makes sense, but at least for this one, this is all stuff that Sony's either been doing, and as well maybe will keep on doing. So at the same time, why should Xbox be basically destroyed for this one, when in theory it is the smaller of the market share compared to PlayStation, and as well, like some of these games might be games that they own. Like let's say this deal goes through, why would PlayStation get like all these extra bonus benefits when Xbox is the one that's forking over and paying for the devs and paying for the houses and hotels and like marketing and everything else in between? So kind of crazy to see this. I want to hear your thoughts and comments down below. I'm a little bit on the anti-Xbox side, so it's kind of just have a little bit of a positive, like, hey, Xbox, you're kind of getting screwed over. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. We have all the other various links too, the Amazon links and all that other good stuff too as well down below, the Twitter and Twitch, which are live right now. And I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow for more videos.